So this is the blaw study group. We are starting today with two artists. She's an Argentinian artist based in England. She lives in Brighton for a long time, 20 years. And she was talking to the American Society, and I thought her work was so interesting. I first saw these works, these little sculptures of porcelain. She has loads of them, and she has been making them for years. I think since 2013, 14, and she still makes them. And I thought it was so beautiful. It's made out of porcelain, and it's always white, and it always has this intimacy and this porosity. And it was the first work I saw, and then I saw this presentation she gave on Instagram, and then she made one of these little, because they're all very little, these sculptures, like hand size, and she made it. She won this commission for the High Line plinth in New York, and she made a really big one for the High Line. And she said she was, can you see here at the bottom?
Beautiful.
Beautiful, isn't it? And these little holes. And she was talking that she thought when she won this commission, she thought of the place for the public sculpture nowadays. And in the High Line, it's very big. This one is not a human size, is bigger. And the holes, they became habitats for the birds. And she was born in Argentina, and Argentina had this history of the dictatorship. And she was the first generation allowed to vote. And one of the other works she got known for is this kind of memorial it's called Portrait of Pablo Miguel. And then it's about this trauma, of political trauma of the dictatorship. So she made a sculpture that goes in this part of the river Rio de la Plata. And it's a horrible story because in the time of the dictatorship, they used to throw the bodies of the people in this part of the river, desaparecidos, no? And so it's the memorial park, the Parque de la Memoria. And this one, she chose this person, Pablo Miguel, and she just had 3 pictures of him as a child. And she contacted the family to try to find out how he looked like. And she was really, taken by this idea to make him look like how he was. Not, also the whole idea of representing one person in the name of everyone who disappeared. And he stays like this in the shore of the river, and the birds come and sit there. There's this and it's beautiful because the shore, the side goes in and out, so sometimes you can see him quite close, sometimes he's very far, and the birds come. And then she was also invited to the São Paulo Bienal, the one affective affinities. When was it? 2018. And she had this project that was very interesting. It's called Slow Bird. And she invited 10 artists that merged art and literature and translation. And there was a book edited.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same biennial in São Paulo, she made this work that I think is quite beautiful as well, that is like pieces of ornaments on the roof of her house in Brighton. And the birds, the seagulls that go there and nest, drop the the ornaments and breaks in lots of little pieces, and then she collects all these pieces and wrap in this very thin fabric and put one word in each one and make it, so there is this thing that it's a bit like a fiction story that she creates and put there, and the birds drop and then she put them all together like a footnote. And then she has this one when she participated on the Venice Biennale, and it's like a frozen frame of this situation that she creates. That's a huge horse. It's called the horse problem, and he's trapped in this frozen moment, and by being trapped there, he creates a whole avalanche of parts of a building falling. So she kind of hangs all these bits of rocks, and there are two figures, one girl trying to comfort the horse and one boy sitting here. So there is a whole also story fiction that she creates about this scene. Interesting, she make a collaboration with this community, Wishy community. And then she goes to live there. I think it's a residency, and this is the interview I saw. I think it was in the beginning.
Being present as well and paying attention with all your senses and not just with your eyes. Or, yeah.
Do you want to comment a bit about the technique of how you do this?
These are porcelain pieces. It's a specific type of porcelain, which is flaxseed paper porcelain. So what happens is that it shrinks a lot in the kiln. It shrinks after I model it. I think it's like 8%. And once they go into the kiln, it's like 20% more. So the pieces are bigger, and when they go into the kiln also does its magic. Sometimes the magic is horrible, sometimes they come out broken, but sometimes it works. Porcelain, type of porcelain allows to do a lot of detail. But I'm not that crazy. A lot of detail is added by the kiln when the reduction happens.
Oh, that's super interesting, the hazardous element. Because in a way, one of the beautiful things about this is that, I mean, that they're very tactile because they have these textures. And I would always imagine you, it's interesting to know this because I would always imagine you like going like hole by hole, like preparing the texture. And it's nice to see that also there's a process.
Oh no, I do go hole by hole.
So it's a combination of both.
Yeah, because...
forward, there's the little bit she talks about the memorial.
Emotional engaged. I've ever been to a piece. It's called The Reconstruction of the Portrait of Pablo Miguel. At some point there was a competition for, they were going to do a memorial park in Argentina that now it exists already for 10 years, which is el Parque de la Memoria. Yeah, my proposal was to recover at least one image of this boy who was 14-year-old at the moment of his disappearance. And again, here is something that has to do with, so what I did is I tried to reconstruct a portrait of Pablo as close as I could imagine him without having any, I mean, he had died or disappeared, we don't know what happened to him, 25 years before I started doing this, and all I had was an ID photo, a very small photo. So something quite funny happened to me with this. I'm gonna just tell a little anecdote about a specific moment where I went through all sorts of ways of approaching how to reconstruct the portrait of someone you never met, you will never meet, you don't have a picture, you only have what people tell you about him. And
very long. I just wanted to give a glimpse of the chart. This is just a little one. She talks about the São Paulo Bienal.
My exhibition for the 33rd São Paulo Bienal is called The Slow Bird. Slow Bird is a meeting point for creative processes. So not only the artists with their own individual creative processes meet in the show, but also I think it's a point of encounter where the visitor will come and will actively complete the meaning of the work and of the whole show with their own interpretation. I selected the artists based on their creative processes, and I was focusing on artists whose works are accessible through perception in a direct way. Affective affinities came out in conversations with myself, so I was kind of cross-pollinizing all the artists. In our exhibition, it is more important the departure point, the finishing line. I wanted to avoid to work around the theme, so I gave them an image. We discussed the image of the slow bird, the possibilities of existence of this creature, which is almost an oxymoron in itself.
So this is the first one. Then I decided to show this one, Josefina Guilisasti.
Sounds good.
And she's from Chile. And she as well, she makes lots of research with it's very connected with Chile history, but she kind of works in the middle of art and museology, heritage, yeah. And this one is called Quinchamalum Chilense, and it's an installation. And this video, this is a very long video, very beautiful. And she gets all these women from this tradition of black pottery, consider UNESCO's cultural heritage, the work they make. And the video shows each of them talking about the process and how to get the clay and to burn, and which kind of shapes they make. And this name is the name of a flower of this region.
A calentar el jarrapato. Este jarrapato se hacía como 150 años atrás, que lo usaban los abuelos para tomar agua, vino. Y esta pieza está terminada. Después de 18 procesos está una pieza como esta. La vamos a calentar. Ahí que se caliente. Y vamos a hacer el juego. Aquí tiene que estar como 3 horas la fogata para que se dé calentita la pieza. Esto es bueno de whey partido. Y si le echan pedacito, se hace una cama. Se hace la cama. Ahora se saca la pieza caliente ya. Y se tira al fuego. Quinchamalí se conoce por su greda y lo remoja con agüita. Aquí se remoja y se le echa. Esto ya es lo último ya para dar finalizado el trabajo.
Quite often she's showing the museum, like in museums that show old archaeological pieces, or in more contemporary museums, but in a display cabinet, more in the way to dialogue with this heritage. And this one I really like her work because she made this shape on beeswax of the Cordillera dos Andes, Andes Mountains, and it's all made out of beeswax with, the right shape of the mountains and all. And these tables are 7 tables. She divided the mountains in these 7 tables, and the tables are heated, have some heated structure. So along the time it melts, and I think she was calling attention for the this problem, it's happening in the Andes mountains, that the ice is all melting, and it's so important for them, the ice in the mountains, because Chile has this the melting of the ice and the conditions of the plants and the environment of this area, and the spiritual traditions and the cults that you have there. And so it's beautiful, because this is kind of part of the work, all this conversation, this thought about the environment in Chile. She puts is available on her website, all these videos. And this one as well, it's sculptures, replicas, excelentes. And it's like a pre-Columbian pottery, and gritones, screamers. Maybe I have to put myself, you see, they all have this big mouth, or big holes.
Yeah.
And they used to make this, like, based on the frogs and based on this tradition of having this open mouth to the sky, call for the water and, you know, to rain, and fertility is a ritual. So she put them all like in this plinth here. And her work is very, very connected with this idea of museums and heritage and archaeology, but it's this tradition, all this tradition. What I think is really interesting about the still life, we are talking about flowers because of Mari earlier, but still life is like center of her work, you know, all these parts. I love this work that she compares the old and the new. So she put these videos of the pots falling in the same room that the old pots are. And you know, this talk about what is old, what is new. So she puts like 2 or 3 videos on the back wall of the room. They break, and she put
but she presented the boat video, the breaking.
She rewinds.
Yeah, you see, this is in the room of the show. So people are looking, and there are these videos on the background. So they break, but they also rewind and go back.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And this is the other one that is similar. But they are original objects made out of porcelain. That is a material really easy to break. But she makes them on silicone. You can throw on the wall, they bounce back.
Fantastic.
And it's beautiful, the video of them falling.
This is brilliant.
Funny, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Fantastic.
I love it.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
Yeah, this one has humor. But
It's really funny.
I like very much the way that it's the subject is something so traditional as still life, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really nice.
It's so funny.
Muito bom.
Let me see if there's another kind of pot.
And the title of the piece is also interesting, because Caída Libre.
Yeah.
It's queda livre, but at the same time it's kind of freeing the art of this, you know, it's breakable, it's not breakable, it kind of frees you from all the concepts, preconcepts, which is really interesting.
And look at this one. This pot is is very similar. I don't know, I remember. For me, it's the pot that is in the paintings of Morandi.
Oh, really?
And also, I think it's interesting the fact that we think about natureza morta, but at the same time, when they shake like that, they seem that they're alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
This is brilliant. Thank you, Marcinha.